Okay. I'd like everybody here to pretend you're a sitting member of the United States House of Representatives. I'm going to propose a vote. This floor up here. My friends, I think we're all here because we know spending is completely out of control.
Yes.
And I'm going to show you how quickly we can turn all of this around. You're a sitting member of the House. I happen to have the floor. I'm going to make a motion that we pass the Single Bill Act. It says every piece of legislation that comes through has one and only one item, no attachments, no earmarks, no riders. I ask everybody here, let's take a quick vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, it's okay to be opposed. Okay, we're on a roll. The Federal Department of Education was formed in 1972. The high school graduation rate at the time was 70.2%. 37 years later, 38, the high school graduation rate is 70.8%. We have a $65 billion budget for that department. I'm going to make a motion that we abolish the Federal Department of Education. All in favor, say aye. So why doesn't that happen? I've traveled all over the country, town to town, city to city. Everybody in America knows what needs to be done. The problem is we no longer have representatives in Washington. We have politicians. Right? We have politicians like the late John Murtha, where every budget that comes through, there's $30 million or more in earmarks to fund an airport in his district that has 3 flights a day going in and out of it.
Yep.
Right? He was in trouble for allegedly funneling contracts to his nephew's country, to his company, and everybody knows what the name of the airport was, right? Long before he passed away, the John Murtha Airport. We have senators like Arlen Specter, 5 times a Republican senator. The political winds shift, and he changes parties, and that happens. But did you see his quote when he shifted? I'm not going to let the members of my district determine the fate of my political career. We laugh, but we're talking about the leaders of the world, the leaders of the greatest nation the world has ever known. Right? And when you have a politician that tries to do the right thing, and I'll use Joe Lieberman as an example, whether you like him or not. In the year 2000, he's the number 2 guy on the Democratic Party ticket. In the year 2004, he has the gall to vote to fund the troops that we sent overseas. And what does the Democratic Party do? They completely run him out of office because he would not vote the way he was told to vote as a U.S. Senator. Folks, we all know that that's wrong. Like the politicians in Washington, they represent the special interest groups that fund them. They represent their political party, and they represent their own political career long before they represent you or I. Now, I'm convinced everything in life happens for a reason. We all have a purpose for being here. And if I had about 20 minutes, I'd tell you the full story. But I'll just give you the really short version. I've abandoned my job, put my profession, my career behind me, and I'm on a mission. It seems almost impossible. It's certainly bold, but it's about to happen. It's a plan to replace all 435 members of the United States House of Representatives. There are some good men and women up there, a few. There's a few. Things happen in life for a reason. I went through a sequence of events that caused me to do what I'm doing right now. And we're about to make this change, and it's a really very simple change. If I told you that I could completely take the money out of politics, would you want to know how? And if I told you we could completely bypass the parties, would you be interested in learning about that?
Yeah.
And if I told you we could hold our officials accountable, would you want to know about that one?
Yeah.
There's a simple way that we can do that. Our founding fathers were brilliant men. They knew this day would come. There's a quote from Samuel Adams somewhere around 1776. He said, "If ever a time should come when vain and aspiring men shall possess the highest seats in government, our country will stand in need of its experienced patriots to prevent its ruin." Folks, that's where we are. The vain and aspiring men have taken control of our government. And we are watching the ruin of the greatest nation the world has ever known under the watch of our generation. So look around the room. We are the experienced patriots. It is our duty to do what needs to be done. And they created our government, the greatest government ever created, because they knew this day would come. They gave us the executive branch and the judiciary, but then the legislative branch. Two bodies, the Senate, 1/3 of the seats come up for vote every 2 years, and then the House, where every single seat comes up for vote every 2 years, because they knew when this day came, and we reached the point, the boiling point where we're at right now, they didn't want a bloody revolution. They wanted a bloodless revolution. They wanted this government set up so that we could go back and retake control of our government. So the question is how. They rigged the system. It's rigged in a way such that we know 95% of the incumbents are going to win every single time. I'm not a political guy at all, but when I went through the sequence of events back in 2005, my mother passed away, a good friend committed suicide, my father had a heart attack. I kind of went through this whole sequence of events. I had a face-to-face encounter with a rattlesnake, and it kind of shook me up. And I was just complaining a little too loud one day. My son was sitting right next to me, and he said, "Hey, Dad, you always tell us not to complain. You're supposed to be a smart guy. Why don't you fix it?" And what he was talking about is, I'm a computer guy. I got a computer science degree from the University of Texas. I worked on software for the KH-11 spy satellite. I helped build the first credit card reader and the gas pump. I worked over with Michael Dell at Dell Computer, where we kind of revolutionized the way you buy and build and sell computers. And all my life, I've been in the right place at the right time, building systems and processes to change the way we do things. And as I sat down and I thought about this challenge that my son had kind of thrown on the table, and I was completely disgusted with everything going on in Washington, everything kind of came to me. Our founding fathers gave us this government so that we could make this change. All we had to do was figure out how. And so I sat down and I approached this not from a political perspective, but from a systems and a process perspective, because that's who I am. And I said, in the computer world, when you want to solve a problem, you first understand what the root cause is, and then you identify the issues that address you from removing that root cause, and you put a process in place to go and change that. And that's what I've done. I said the root cause of all of these problems that we're experiencing today are that we have politicians and not representatives. And I said there's 4 problems that are in the way that are preventing us from addressing that root cause. It's the money in politics, it's the parties, it's the career politicians and the lack of accountability. So I set out, I built a system to address just that. And I think we're going to have a little bit of time to show you guys exactly how it works. But let me explain it to you very simply. We don't need parties at all. Just as Michael Dell eliminated the middleman in the computer world, we are about to eliminate the middleman in the political world. We're going to take the party